Just Manila making normal cat noises there. Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia, and in this video I want to talk about, not books for a change, but about television. I have been watching a lot of television. I always watch a lot of TV. I enjoy watching TV, and I feel like I've been watching some really good TV shows that I want to share with you. So you can look at these as British television recommendations, I guess. My tastes in TV are very mainstream, very tame. I watch a lot on the BBC. I don't have a Netflix subscription or anything like that, so pretty much all I watch is what you can get on TV here in the UK. Luckily, British TV is pretty high quality, generally speaking. I know the Brits like to complain about the license fee, but actually you get a lot for it. And let me tell you that as a German. In Germany, the license fee per year is about £30 more expensive than in the UK. And you don't get nearly the amount of high quality television that you get here for it. So stop complaining, pay your license fee and enjoy what the BBC has to offer. This is not sponsored. It's the start of June now and it's still ridiculously cold and rainy, so I have been spending most of my time indoors. I'm not much of a film goer because I have a very short attention span and I tend to fall asleep in the cinema. But let's get into some of the shows that I have been watching. So the TV show that's making me tune in live every Tuesday is Years and Years. And I spoke about this show in a previous video that I did with my husband Bill, where we discuss the question whether we are living in a real-life dystopia. And Years and Years is pretty much that. It's a TV drama series written by Russell T Davies, who you might know as the showrunner of Doctor Who from about 10 years ago. And he wrote this 6-part series set around a Manchester family. And the show starts in 2019, but then progresses very quickly into the future. And at the moment of recording, we're about 8 or 9 years into the future. Things aren't great. This is a really fantastic TV drama with a lot of really big name TV and film actors in it, like Emma Thompson and Jessica Hines, Russell Tovey. It's so brilliantly written and acted. You have to watch it if you have access to it. What I like about Years and Years is how scaringly plausible everything that happens in the show is. For example, Emma Thompson plays this populist politician who rises through the ranks very, very quickly and makes a career out of people's fears. Does that sound familiar to you wherever you are in the world? That description will probably remind you of someone. The topics that are touched upon in the show are all of the issues that we're facing now in 2019 that we can see escalating in the future. The refugee crisis, climate change, populist and isolationist politics, all of these things kind of come together to create a perfectly realistic and absolutely terrifying dystopian world. Another show that I have been watching with the rest of the world is Killing Eve. And I'm recording this on Saturday, so the first episode of Series 2 of Killing Eve is broadcast later today. By the time you're watching this, I will have seen that episode, and I hope that I am as blown away by Series 2 as I was by Series 1. Just in case you haven't heard about Killing Eve and I don't know where you've been hiding, this is a spy drama thriller that is the typical kind of cat and mouse relationship between a secret agent and a serial killer. Well, a serial assassin, I should say. I mean, she does get paid for the killing. This is such a traditional and well-known premise, but Killing Eve really puts a twist on it. And it's not just because the two leads are female, both the spy and the assassin, but just because of how it subverts tropes in the genre, how much humour it injects into the violence, and just how much you get into the characters. The assassin in particular is so charmingly played by Jodie Comer that you kind of want her to win, At the same time, she's obviously a monster and a really, really bad person, but you can't help cheering for her just a little bit. Series 1 ended on a massive cliffhanger, so I can't wait to see where Series 2 takes it. And Series 1 was written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who also wrote and starred in Fleabag, which that show ran earlier this year. The second series ran earlier this year, and again, everyone was watching it, as was I. I think the Hot Priest has become a new TV show character favourite. Unfortunately, as far as I know, there won't be a third series of Fleabag, but if you haven't seen the first two, then go and watch it. I have to say the second series is better than the first, but both are hilarious and so well written. A real masterpiece of the sort of comedy drama genre, and very, very British. The next show that I have been watching has been compared to Fleabag quite a lot, and it is the period drama Gentleman Jack. Now, this is the dramatization of a real-life historical figure, which is Anne Lister, who was a famous landowner and lesbian in the early 19th century. And the reason we know so much about her life is that because she was a prolific diary writer, and her diaries survived a whole century tucked behind a wall, I think, until they were found in the early 20th century, when they were deciphered because a lot of her diaries were written in code. People were so shocked to find about her exploits with other women that she was kind of hushed up and she wasn't really talked about until a few decades later. And now finally her life has been turned into a BBC history drama. And I'm enjoying it a lot. I can see where the comparisons with Fleabag come in, because a lot of the same kind of narrative techniques are used. She turns to the camera quite a lot and winks at the camera or says something to camera. But overall, this is a really fun drama. It's got a kind of Pride and Prejudice vibe to it. Obviously, it's not quite in the same era, but only a few decades after that. And yeah, I'm enjoying the romance. I'm enjoying the comedy of it. Anne Lister is a really fascinating character because she too is a little bit evil, but again, you kind of root for her. I'm going to link in the description box, I'm going to link to a video on YouTube by a YouTuber called Jessica Kellgren-Frozard, who did a fantastic video about the life of Anne Lister. So if you're interested in her life, then check out Jessica's video, linked in the description box. The next thing that I've been watching is something that only started yesterday at day of recording, and that is the 2019 Women's Football World Cup, which is taking place in France this year. I am one of those people, one of those many people who doesn't really care for club football. I don't really watch the Premier League or the Bundesliga or any other kind of football clubs. I don't follow any clubs, I don't support any clubs, but I do like a bit of international football. And I feel like a lot of people like me enjoy the pomp and ceremony and the cheering for your team of international football. And this year's Women's World Cup is promising to be a good one. Of course, I will be cheering for Germany, although Italy are also qualified. They're kind of my second team to cheer for. But I'm also hoping that the English and Scottish women are going to do well, which both qualified, the Scottish women for the first time in the history of the Women's World Cup, as far as I know. So the games are actually being broadcast on TV, which is fantastic. I think last time was the first time that I actually saw women's football games live on television, which is great. And yeah, you can catch the games on the BBC and possibly other places as well. Then let's get to a little bit of daytime TV, which I enjoy. There's this show called Eat Well for Less, which is on BBC Two, I think. And this is one of these super formulaic entertainment reality shows, I guess. This is hosted by that bald guy from MasterChef and another guy from Essex. And they go into people's homes and force them to spend less money on their food shop. Yeah, it's super formulaic. It's always the same story. There's Mum, completely overwhelmed by the cooking. Dad doesn't do shit in the kitchen. 3 children, super picky eaters, don't like vegetables. And the whole family will only eat ready meals. That's kind of the setup for this. And then these 2 guys come in and swap out the expensive branded sodas for store-owned brands. And they swap out their Yorkshire tea bags for Tesco everyday value. And then they test to see if the family notices these swaps. At the same time, they kind of get Dad in the kitchen and help him cook a healthy vegetable-based dinner. It's so formulaic, but I love it, and I watch every single episode of that. Mostly, let's be honest, because I enjoy judging people on television. Finally, I've been watching some topical TV shows that I want to recommend. The next show is the only show in my list that's not on the BBC, and that is The Last Leg, which is broadcast on Channel 4. And this is a comedy news topical guest chat show type thing, which is hosted by an Australian comedian named Adam Hills, and he has 2 sidekicks, Josh Widdicombe and Alex Brooker, and they always have 2 guests on the show. And the guests range from other comedians to actors, politicians, just kind of public figures. And they discuss the week's news. It's a live show. It's broadcast live every Friday evening, although because I'm old and I go to bed early, I usually catch it the next day on catch up. It's really funny, it's entertaining, and if you're the sort of person who doesn't watch the news, then it'll give you a dose of the week's news as well. Highly recommend The Last Leg. And finally, if you want to watch an actual news show, then I can recommend the show Beyond 100 Days, which is on the BBC News channel every weekday from 7 to 8. And this is a more casual digest of the news. It's hosted by 2 BBC News journalists, Catty Kay and Christian Fraser, and they talk to each other and discuss the day's news and interview people. But like I said, it's rather than someone reading the news, it's more them discussing the news, which I enjoy the format. And if you're interested in a news program that is not just the news, then I recommend you tune in on a weekday at 7 on the BBC News channel. Right, so this is what I've been watching. Like I said, it's fairly boring, it's fairly mainstream. But let me know if you have any TV recommendations for me. I think you get a pretty good feel of my taste in television from this list. I will also leave links to the programme websites in the description box. Unfortunately, if you're not in the UK, you won't be able to watch these unless you find a way to proxy in, or unless these shows are also somewhere else online. Hello, Minerva. Minerva, by the way, also really enjoys the Women's World Cup, don't you? You like following the ball? Let me know if you have any recommendations for me, or if you have watched any of the shows that I've mentioned. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.